Hey, it's Sam, and I'm talking today about the the full moon in Pisces. That's happening on September 29th. Let's get it right. On September 29th, you see the sun is down here in Virgo. Sun and Mars are in Virgo, and the moon is up here in Pisces, Uttara Bhadra Nakshatra. And this sun in Virgo is very much about this sense of organization, wanting to organize all the details and principles on Earth that we have to contend with. It comes after Leo, where we have a certain amount of power. That's the power in our life, also the power in our body. And Virgo is where we need to take that power and harness it, skillfully, strategically, and set up great systems like, our physical body, our daily routines, or even something like in culture and in the world, bureaucracies, so that a company can run efficiently, etc. So the sun is there, but then opposite that is the sign of Pisces, and that's where we have the moon on September 29th. And this is opposite of Virgo, where we have all those details. Opposite of that is where we have this bigger picture, this larger metaphysical nature, which is not captive to the things on Earth. In fact, where we're liberated and free of those things. And so when we have a full moon like this, there's this harmonic tension between the sun, where we're putting a lot of focus and intention on these Virgo areas of life, and then the moon up here, which is saying, yeah, but you can really lose yourself in all the stress and worry of the world, all the details on Earth. We can't manage them all. We can't organize everything. So we have to align those details with the bigger picture, with those things that are not of this earth. And when we do that, then our soul elevates and transcends beyond just our emotions and whatnot. What tends to happen, though, with the sign of Pisces is it's opposite Virgo. Again, Virgo is where we can feel a bit of stress around all the detailed work that needs to be done. So in Pisces, it's kind of like, well, we want to escape from all that stress. And it's like, oh, I don't want to face all of that. And so this can lead to escapism, and it can, sort of fantasy world, and not showing up for the work that needs to be done. So that balancing point is between the two. And so you'll feel on this full moon a lot of that longing to maybe transcend and kind of get away from all of the hard work and difficulty and stress of the world. But you can't. It's part of life. And instead of escape from it and escape into some fantasy world, it's that part of you that's not of this world. It's that deeper metaphysical nature. Now, this is also, as you could see, called Pitru Paksha, which is the time to celebrate our ancestors and to make peace with their afterlife. And especially those ancestors who have crossed over. You could see this is very much, again, that's the sign of Pisces. Pisces is that, again, metaphysical, cosmic nature that's not just of this earth. So if there are things like ghosts and souls and all of that, it would be in the sign of Pisces. That's where you would have the ghosts and the souls. And so this is a big part of this next 2 weeks as well, is letting go of the difficulty and stress and perhaps, negative karma that you've had with your ancestry, with your ancestral lineage, as many have. And again, Pitru means ancestors, and Paksha means fortnight or a 15-day cycle. There are two Pakshas in the lunar cycle: the waxing cycle of the moon and the waning cycle of the moon. So the waning cycles are where we let go of something. So you want to understand this is very important. It's not the beginning of something. No, it's, the beginning starts on the new moon. It's the end of something. And at the end, we need to let go and surrender. So that's why Pitru Paksha, more than anything, is surrendering and letting go of the ancestral problem, difficulty, and attachment that we might still have. Because it's said that our ancestors don't fully experience liberation and moksha and don't fully let go of life on earth until everyone on earth that they love has let go of them and allowed them to be free, allowed them to release. And if you're still angry at them and still carrying this charge, you're like holding them, so to speak. And they're holding you, and you're caught. You're caught in the illusion of the world. And the illusion of, that there's something wrong, like you were abused and mistreated and it was wrong what happened. And, those ancestors or whoever it is that you have charge with who are no longer here, because now you can't work it out with them anymore on this level. You have to work it out with them in that cosmic realm. This is the fortnight for that. And it's not coincidental that it happens when the moon is in Pisces and the sun is in Virgo. These Indian holidays are coordinated this way. The full moon in Pisces is the full moon of letting go, of surrendering. That's what Pisces is in the highest sense. And Virgo is where we're not letting go. Virgo is where we're attached. There's probably the most attachment, at least to all the details, in the sign of Virgo. And there's the least attachment in Pisces, where we just kind of want to let it go. So this next 2 weeks, you want to really introspect about any type of ancestral pain that you might be hanging on to and let those things go. You could see that, right here, in this chart as well, you could see that Ketu is here less than 1 degree, Rahu is here at less than 1 degree. In early December, the nodes are going to change signs and move into Pisces and Virgo. So this is a huge theme right now anyway. And in 2 weeks, we're also going to have an eclipse where the sun is going to be eclipsed in Virgo. So it's this huge shift around this Pisces-Virgo axis is happening now. So I really see this full moon in Pisces, this becoming very aligned with the true nature of Virgo and all of the details and worries and concerns of the earth, and all of the control that we have over our habits and routines. Because you do have control. You have control over the only things that are really important, and that's your daily habits, exercise, routines. You have full control over that. Nothing else, though. You don't really have control over other people or all this other stuff. And if you focus on the things you have control over and don't worry about the rest and don't try to control everything around you, then that's the highest quality of Virgo. Then your attention is being very accurate and very precise in that way. And then you're also connected with those things, and you're letting go of all those things you don't control, which is the nature of Pisces. So this Virgo-Pisces axis is going to be very important in the next, in the next year and a half or so, starting in December of this year. So go to rahuketu.net to attend the Rahu and Pisces, Ketu and Virgo free web class. We're going to have this shift of Rahu going through Pisces and Ketu through Virgo. It'll be from November 29th, 2023 until the end of May of 2025. And I'm going to talk about what it means for your sign, the house axis from your chart, for the world based on past transits. So are you ready for that? What's going to happen? And again, as you can see here, I analyzed the nodes, what they are, Rahu and Pisces, Ketu and Virgo. You see we have big eclipses coming up with this nodal axis, October 14th, 2023, and then also April 8th next year, and even further into 2025. So again, this is a great opportunity for you to really learn what this transit means. So go ahead and register rahuketu.net. Yeah, it's very important, very profound shift that's happening. And as you could see here, it's just when you go to that website, you just go Rahu and Pisces, Ketu and Virgo for you and your world. What does it mean? You just click register now. This thing pops up and you just register for it and rock and roll from there. It is a huge shift that's happening. And again, right now we're seeing that kind of prelude to it with this big new moon that's happening. And so it's also happening in the nakshatra of Uttara Bhadra. Uttara Bhadra is ruled by the god called Ahibudnya, who is the celestial serpent. Now, Pisces, again, is this mystical watery sign where we're trying to escape into, where we're trying to escape from all the attachment of the world. There's nothing wrong with escaping falsity and fiction. And with Pisces, we're escaping from that illusion of control of Virgo. But instead, the way we escape is often into things like escapism, drugs and alcohol, or even things like entertainment, watching a lot of TV, sort of tuning out. But in a very purest sense, the way we escape is into authentic spiritual practices like meditation. Meditation is very precise. This is how the nature of Virgo and Pisces converge, because with meditation, you do things very precisely. You bring your attention, like I just said when I described Virgo. You sit a certain way, close the eyes. It's very precise. You don't just meditate anyway. Or if you try to just meditate in some chaotic way, it's not going to work. You sit a certain way, there's stillness, you bring your attention into the moment. You have to pay attention to all these details of breath, of even like mantra, which is related to speech, which has to do with Mercury, the ruler of Pisces. There's even, again, certain ways of meditation are very detailed, and even things like mudras and energy locks and bandhas and all kinds, you can get very detailed about it to unleash and unlock the energy. And again, that's very Virgo. So when you really use the full power of Virgo, which is also to see through your mental illusions and understand it correctly, and then you align that with meditation and spiritual practice, then instead of you escaping from all of the false pressure of the world because you're trying to manage things you'll never manage, you escape into the truth of existence. And the nakshatra Uttara Bhadra is really one of the more, again, it's very, very much this sort of mystical courage of Pisces, because the celestial serpent is what gets called in to go. You think of a serpent as again, something that could go down into holes. It's actually celestial serpents. Serpents don't go down into holes, but they could. Think of like a serpent of the deep, like a water snake that goes down into the water of your false emotional attachments. Because again, we're full of just a bunch of emotions. We're not very intelligent and very intellectual. And I don't say that to be insulting, but it's just a fact. We think we're intelligent, or that we're operating through intelligence, but we're actually just operating through feelings and emotions. We don't hardly ever use our discrimination, our intelligence, which is Mercury, which is Virgo. We all know the right thing to do, and we can say the right things, but then we don't do it. We do what we feel like doing. And then we reverse engineer what we felt like doing with a lot of explanations. Again, I make a living hearing people talk about all the stuff, and they're not doing any of it. And it's very easy for us to talk ourselves into something. And again, and we're not practicing it. So Virgo is great with the practice. So once we put these things into practice, it takes a lot of courage for us to go down into those emotionally confusing places. And that's what the celestial serpent, Ahibudnya, is doing. And it goes down into those emotionally scary parts of our consciousness. And by the way, those are the same things that have you stuck and have you hanging on to like resentments from, again, maybe the ancestors and all of those things. You can really see how we often hang on to these resentments and these other things because we're used to them, because they're a habit, because we're used to telling ourselves these stories. And what do we have without the story? We don't even really know. We've invested so much in, we have so much attachment to that. But the reason we have attachment to it is because we're afraid of what's on the other side. What are we without that story? Who are you without the idea that the reason you're unhappy and have failed in certain things was because, this person was to blame, or you were raised that way, or, well, I was mistreated, or whatever. By the way, I'm not saying any of that's not true, or that understanding and processing these things aren't part of our healing. But at some point, we have to let go of that. And again, this is a great time to do that. That's a very deep and sort of modern version of Pitru Paksha, because you'll see it in traditional Indian thinking, which it is also this way, that it's a time to honor the ancestors and let go of that, let them, pray for their liberation and pray for their peace and pray for them to move on. But in the Indian sense, the way it's often said is that because if they're stuck, there can be obstacles. So you do the tarpana and you do the pujas so that you can release them and you can be successful. Because if they're still hanging around, then they're they're like messing up your relationships and messing up your career. So if you want the good career, it's because you have ancestral karma that those ancestors are still there sort of tormenting you. So help them heal, let them go so you can be happy and successful. It's just a different spin. So yes, I do know of that part of that way of seeing it too. That you get these pujas done so that the ancestors can be released and you can be successful. Okay, so if that's what it takes, then do it for that reason. No, all I'm saying is that I prefer to see it this other way because I think it's more in line, and it's a great time to really evaluate and look at the stories that we tell ourselves, which is Virgo. We just went through this Mercury retrograde in Leo. It was a big part of it. And also, especially those stories that we tell ourselves about our karma. And again, Pisces is very mystical, karmic, cosmic, transcendent energy. And again, we need to evolve our understanding of who we are. You're an Atman, joined all Atmans, those ancestors who you think tormented you perhaps, or whatever, all the people that you meet that you were incarnated with, perhaps in a previous lifetime you tormented them. So you incarnated in this lifetime so they could torment you. Who knows? There's all kinds of stories. Nothing is, you don't understand how all of this is put together. If you did, then you wouldn't be confused. So you're here trying to find your way in the midst of a confusing cosmos and karma and that you don't understand. So understand that you don't understand and release. And again, because in Virgo, we also have this illusion that we know it all, we got it figured out, and we're trying to protect ourselves from those things we haven't figured out. But you can see on this diagram, I always refer back now to this idea that we're this Atman, this transcendent self, joined all selves. And then we incarnate as Jiva, as a separate being. That's what the chart is. The chart is this Jiva, Atman, this separate karmic mind. Your karma is just your mind and how you're in this illusion of time and how it feels real, all these emotions and attachments in your mind, right? And so then this Jiva Atman, which is also related to the goddess and what's called Prakriti in Sankhya philosophy, through the agency of Maya, it mixes with Maya and the planets, which are these pure transcendent forces of soul, heart, courage, intelligence. Like I said, we don't use our intelligence. We don't use the pure power of Mercury and Virgo to really think through things and then change what we do. That's what it is. No, instead, we're a bunch of emotions and we just do what we feel like. And then Mercury just becomes the story we tell ourselves to justify why nothing really changes very much. So again, this matrix of this Mercury, this like Virgo Pisces, is really up for grabs, where you can really evolve that now as well. And so instead of Mercury just being a lot of distracting ideas, again, and we also often use Mercury just to go find confirmation bias And especially these days, there's so many bad answers or so many incomplete answers where we can hear something that sounds like something we went through, and then the solution is something that's very attractive to us because it means we don't have to change anything. For example, did you have a difficult childhood where you felt ashamed at times and where you were criticized? That means your parents were narcissists and you're perfectly justified in feeling the way you do. So don't let anyone shame you. Keep feeling that way. Now, buy my program, come to my therapy, buy my coaching, so we can just talk about it forever. Again, I'm being sort of glib, but to some extent, again, we can just go seeking confirmation bias that keeps us stuck where we are. And again, I also want to be clear, I'm not knocking any kind of therapy or recognizing the continuum of our past and childhood and how all of this works together, but I am saying that for the most part, purely Western solutions are very limited. And I think they can become very much a sort of indulgence in just reworking the program. And in particular, when you can see things in this higher level, you realize we all came from something. We all had it. You incarnated, you wouldn't be alive if you didn't have difficult karma to work through. And those people you incarnated with were part of it. That was their function. Not just for you, but you were that to them as well. And again, this is a thing where we stop getting so attached to these false and these limited stories. We realize, look, you're the tormentor to as many people as are tormenting you. You might not want to see that, but it's true. So no reason to make that a big dark thing either. That's just the nature of reality. So let's, learn from that and realize that. And so you see this. I really love teaching and showing this this image that I've made that shows this kind of descent of our Atman into, through the agency of Maya, and then the illusion of the ego, which brings up the gunas and the elements, and then down here in the karma. We're down here in this level most of the time. We're down here in all this karma and struggling with all the egoistic distortions. Our true nature first begins up here, where we understand that our true power is shown in the pure nature of all the planets. The highest nature of the planets, the pure discrimination, the pure strength, the pure wisdom, meaning, happiness. But we're not really even up here. We're down here struggling with the limited expressions of all of the planets as shown in our natal chart. So if you want to learn more about that, you can actually go to this website, YourTrueNatureVideos.com, and get this free video series where I talk about your soul's journey. It's actually a 4-video series, and this is connected to also my certification course. If you want to really learn how these things work on a highest level, and really understand things like this evolution of consciousness through the astrology chart in a very precise way. First one is your true self, your cosmic self. Second one is your unique self in this lifetime, your true highest power in the evolutionary processes. And then the third is your egoistic smaller self and why you're stuck. And then the blissful return path home. So again, you can just go to YourTrueNatureVideos.com and get that 4-part video series as well. So I want to tell people about these things also as I make these videos, because, these videos are definitely a good way to understand what's happening in the world now. You can see these connections, but also you should understand these things correctly. And especially in this age right now that we're talking about, in this Virgo Pisces lunation, and the fact that we have, like I said, Rahu is moving into Pisces, Ketu is moving into Virgo. This axis of karma with the with the Virgo Pisces axis is very much an axis of learning things correctly and bringing together precise wisdom and actual understanding of things like astrology, and not just having it be something where you think, oh, maybe this can help me. All right, I'll grab some details here about my chart, and this kind of illusion of understanding. Because over and over I see where people and I'm sure even many that watch my videos, even if I give you good information and you learn things, you'll often also gravitate toward misunderstanding things. I see it in comments all the time. My Saturn is here. What's going to happen? And it's something that just kind of scares us, and there's no reason for it. You should learn it correctly, and you're meant to know it. So that's also huge themes in the Virgo Pisces era. So again, to recap, again, this full moon in Pisces in Uttara Bhadra Nakshatra is where we're really trying to unite that transcendent spiritual nature that wants to be released from all the problems and details and worries of the world. But it's often quite escapist in nature. We kind of want to just escape, so we sort of tune out all of that stuff. Instead, we need to tune in. Instead of escaping from our false understanding, we need to escape into the true reality. Instead of all of our distorted ideas about things we think we know for sure that we've been hanging on to our whole life that aren't working, we need to release that, let go, surrender that. Pisces is the sign of surrender, letting go. But not just letting go so you fall into the abyss. You let go and you fall into all of the precision and beauty and organization of Virgo, right? Something like this, I mean, even looking at this, poster that I have, look how organized this is. Isn't it very fulfilling to look at something like this? That's very Virgo-like, right? Very Mercury-like. Everything set up there, this structure. Doesn't it feel good to see something structured and laid out like, okay, this structure is here. That structure is there to support you. Especially when this structure supports something that is boundless, that seems to be overwhelming. It's not overwhelming. You can learn it correctly, you can do it precisely. And again, that's what the Virgo Pisces axis is very much about. And so within that, it's also where we can release those, those ancestors or those beings who have passed on that maybe we incarnated with, or where we're hanging on to difficult karma with, especially those who have passed on, but really anyone in your life, even if they're still alive. You don't even have to reach out to them, just energetically, right? Letting go, making peace with your circumstances in this lifetime and those people who did their best with you and you did your best with them, and letting them go. Letting that go and, do an honoring ceremony. I will be doing that, and I have been these last few days, where I'm really feeling into my, even some of those difficult places that I had with both of my parents, and just still really feeling the love and gratitude that I have for what they did do, and for how much they sacrificed and how much they did love me. However imperfect it was. It was imperfect a lot of the time. But they did their best, and I love them. And I send that beautiful energy in case there's any part of them who doubts that. So even if none of this works, even if this is just a lot of nonsense, it feels good to do it anyway. So anyway, I hope this was helpful for you to hear, and you have a great full moon in Pisces. Go to YourTrueNatureVideos.com to get the Live Your True Nature 4-part video series. The first is called Your True Self, Your Cosmic Self, where we talk about the Atman, the Jiva Atman that comes down into the 9 planets of Lord Vishnu, how we incarnate. Then we look at our egoistic struggles in video 3, where we try to return back to the path home, the joyful and wise path home, in video 4. So again, YourTrueNatureVideos.com. It's time to know yourself, not just believe in yourself. For a limited time, I'm offering 10 hours of masterclasses, Yoga and Vedic Astrology, Quantum Vedic Astrology, and Spiritual Astrology Masterclass. These are 3 great courses that will really help you a lot. Now, in case you don't know who I am, I taught the Astroved certification course, Dattatreya Shiva Baba, in 2010. Ravi Shankar published my book in 2018, I've been around for decades. I've been teaching these great classes, and if you go to VedicAstrologyEssentials.com, you can get this 90% off discount of these 3 great classes, more than 10 hours, guaranteed value. You can check this out. These 3 classes will give you all the necessary tools to begin to learn Vedic astrology. Please find me on YouTube at Sam Jeppy, Vedic astrology teacher, on there since 2007, thousands of hours of classes. Also on Facebook at Astrology Teacher, tons of articles updated regularly, and I'm on Instagram at Vedic Astrology 108, ongoing updates and interaction.